We're already in March, but in today's video, I wanted to go over my credit card strategy for 2024 and discuss the credit cards that I'm looking at, what happened last year, and hopefully this will be helpful for your personal credit card journey. So let's get started. 2023 was a bit special because we bought a house, and that definitely influenced our credit card decisions on when to apply to new credit cards and which to actually get. And when you buy a house, at least if you're planning on getting a mortgage loan, your credit score needs to be in tip-top shape, especially with the interest rates of last year. And my credit score was at 795 by the end of the year when we bought the house, but earlier that year I kept in mind that I needed to keep my new credit card applications at a minimum. I just didn't want anything to affect my credit score negatively. So as a result, I only applied to 2 credit cards at the beginning of 2023. And funny enough, I think I was pretty late in the game to apply for Built because this credit card is geared towards people who pay rent. And the biggest factor to my delay was just the need of having to use that card 5 times a month. But after doing some deep research, I realized that there wasn't too many penalties with the card. If I did happen to forget to use the card 5 times a month, I would only be getting 250 points for my rent. But the card has no annual fees, and if I decided to discontinue using the card, there's really not that many negative factors. So Built was really just a nice to have card that would give me extra benefits, and indeed it was, as I got 30,000 points by the end of the year just on my rent. And as for the Marriott card, since it's been a year, I now have a free night certificate for them, so keep an eye out for a video in the future where I'll be comparing the Chase, Marriott, and the Hyatt, and I think that will be a pretty interesting comparison. Now let's go over a recap on my 2023 card strategy. Since we were pretty new with the Capital One Venture X card, we were pretty happy that at a minimum, we would be receiving 2 times the points on any purchase. Which that pretty much beats most of Chase's cards where we would either be getting 1 or 1.5 times the points in the other category. And as a result, we ended up not really thinking about which card to use when we were making a purchase, which is a good and bad thing, I guess. The good thing is, I don't need to think, but the bad thing is, we missed out on a handful of times when we could have received better benefits from our other credit cards. For example, the Freedom Flex had 5 times the points during the fourth quarter of last year, and that category was focused on wholesale stores, aka Costco. So we totally forgot about this and we ended up using Venture X at Costco. So last year we ended up using Venture X for most of the time and then Built 5 times a month. Next up, let's go over last year's points redemptions. In March last year, I went to Taiwan with my husband, and I would say that the Venture X, the 2 Hyatt cards that we have, and the Chase cards, they made up the bulk of our redemptions. To start off, we got 2 round-trip economy flights from SFO. One flight was redeemed for 94,000 miles from Capital One, and the other flight was redeemed for 90,000 miles with Chase. And looking back, I think we could have done better to get that flight for less points, but I'm learning new things and I will actually be sharing a secret hack that I just learned at the end of this video, so please stick around. But also with that, we were restricted on dates and it was spring break season. Last year, we also got pretty good redemptions on hotels, so with our 2 Hyatt credit cards, we were able to get 2 free nights at any Hyatt category 4 and under, so we ended up staying at the Grand Hyatt in Taipei for 2 nights, and then we used our points for an additional 2 nights, and we ended up saving over $600. And then closer to the end of the year, we had a big camping trip / hotel trip in Zion, Bryce Canyon, and the Grand Canyon, and for those hotel nights, we ended up using our $45 hotel credit from the Sapphire Preferred, and we used $200 from the travel credit in our Venture X. Also, the hotels were pretty cheap because it was low season, November, and that definitely helped to cut costs. And I'm actually out of water right now, so while I go fill this up, would you mind hitting the like button? Now let's get into my 2024 strategy. Already this year, we got the Chase Inc. Business Preferred, and that card got us 100,000 points as long as we spent $8,000 within the first 3 months of opening the card. So we had a big purchase coming up, which was a kitchen countertop, so that was definitely a sign to get a new card. So my husband actually applied for that card, but as for me, I'm still making making the decision of which card to get because right now we're closely watching our expenses and we're trying to pay off our house early because we got stuck with a 7% interest rate. So we're going to be keeping track of that for the next 2 months, and I just want to make sure that for any new card I'm going to meet the welcome bonus. And anyway, there are some more cards that we do have in mind. So my husband is up for his second Sapphire, as it's been 4 years since he got his first welcome bonus. Now we're deciding if it makes sense to get the Sapphire Reserve or the Preferred. The new Sapphire lounges seem pretty promising to visit, but there's just none in my area. But I do think that they're popping up pretty quickly, at least quicker than the Capital One lounges, but I guess that COVID was to blame for the delays. And then for me, I'm thinking about getting the Amex Hilton, but I'm not sure which, and very possibly I can also get the Venture X. Maybe my husband will downgrade his, let's see. So as for which card we're going to be spending this year, last year we know that we were mostly using Venture X, but this year we're going to be steering to a different direction. The main driver for this decision is due to Capital One not having one particular transfer partner, and that is Hyatt. So we really like the value that Hyatts have been giving us in the past, so instead of pooling all our points into Capital One and potentially not having enough points for Hyatt, we want to split things off and even things out. So for this year, we're going to be using our Chase cards for when they make sense, when we get higher redemption, and then for other purchases, we'll be using the Venture X. That way, we'll make sure that for every dollar that we're spending, we're getting the highest value instead of not thinking about it and only get 2 times the points. Now let's get into the last part of this video, which is redemptions. So we actually have a redemption this year and I wanted to talk a little bit about this. So this April, we'll be going to Japan and I'm super excited for this trip because 1, it's Japan, but 2, we were able to redeem these flights for less points. So this is my hack that I was talking about earlier, and this is where I think Bilt will come in handy even though I don't rent anymore. So Bilt has a partnership with a search tool called Point.me. It can search for flights using points. There are a few things that make this search tool a bit inefficient, such as you can only search by the exact date, and you can only search with Bilt's transfer partners. But nevertheless, it's a starting point, and plus it's free. So I was able to find a flight to Japan round trip for 60,000 points. It is economy, but it's a direct flight, and I think it was much better from what I was looking with the cash values. So when I was searching on Google Flights, the best flight would have been for $1,200 per person, economy, and it had a 9-hour layover. Or I could have gotten this flight with cash, but it would have cost $2,000, so it's a pretty good deal. There are other search tools that are similar to Point.me, but a lot of them do cost money. But I did hear that a lot of times it's worth paying the $5, so then you can quickly find your flight for a good deal. And as for finding hotels in Japan, that's still a work in progress because unfortunately the beds I've seen, they're pretty tiny. And I'm pretty concerned because my in-laws are coming with us, and although we do have a good relationship with them, it just seems like we'll have to order 2 rooms. It just seems like most hotels in Japan can only fit 2 people, so maybe we'll have to end up going with an Airbnb. Do you have any tips about hotels in Japan? So that's my strategy for this year, and I want to ask you all, what credit card are you looking out for this year? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!